Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening from. Welcome to the Change Management Simplified podcast, where we will explain and discuss what change management is really about, using real examples alongside principles of change management based on our experiences on projects, transformations, change initiatives, and of course, the home experiences as well. Today's topic that we are continuing from episode 5 is emotional intelligence. However, we are focusing on self-awareness. But just to give you a short recap, emotional intelligence is made up of 4 components. This is self-awareness, social awareness, self-management, and relationship management. But in today's episode, the question that I have in front of me is, why is self-awareness with change management essential to your success and leadership? We're going to talk about when it goes wrong, how it goes wrong, how to develop your self-awareness, and then of course we'll also touch upon the benefits of self-awareness. The reason we are focusing on this particular topic because self-awareness is critical and the beginning of your success, from childhood to even when you go through secondary school, university, as well as when you start working. Self-awareness is your key to your success. So what is self-awareness? We briefly touched upon it in the previous episode, but I'm just going to try and give it a little bit more emphasis and more clarity, as I promised. Self-awareness is really your ability to understand and to be able to be aware of your own emotional strengths and weaknesses and how these impact you and those around you. For example, at home, and I'm going to use the examples that I use here will be both from a normal life home experience versus work example, because we need self-awareness in day-to-day life to be able to get through the days. For example, at home, how do you react when something doesn't go your way? For example, if you come back from home, you've had a bad day, do you come back in a very bad mood, shouting at everyone, being snappy? For example, in front of the kids, do you shout at the kids? Do you consider the impact your behavior is having on the others? Do you even know how you're acting and that impact and how that impacts those around you? For example, at work, if a project is not going according to plan, do you start screaming and shouting at people, or do you start banging doors and banging walls as well? Do you shout at people across the room? Is that the best way to do it? So it's just the general way how you would react to certain situations, either at home or in public. It's important that you are aware of these reactions and the impact it has on those around you. In addition to this, self-awareness is having the maturity for you to have the ability to see how others see you, how do they perceive you, and knowing who you are. Because if you know who you are, you would be able to, in a way, contain or be able to respond in a way whereby it doesn't have an adverse impact on the rest or those around you. And the way I like to think about it, or how I try to put it in practice, is I always remember what my grandparents always tell me, which is, if you don't know where you're coming from, that means you don't know where you're going. And the way I replay that back to myself is that if I don't know who I am, which is where I'm coming from, then I don't know where I'm going. So how can I get people around me to help me complete certain activities or tasks or lead a team to success if I personally don't even know how to lead and to manage myself and my reaction to situations? So that's self-awareness in a nutshell. Firstly, how does it go wrong? Well, firstly, it's really just the lack of knowledge and awareness of the fact of the adverse impact that your behavior has on others. And in some cases, some people assume that, the way they behave is normal. The way they react is, it's the way they've always done. No one has ever said anything to them. The other reason could be the way they've been raised. That's their values, that's their culture, that you have to, you're allowed to react in such a way and get away with it. We come across different cultures, different norms, but when you go out in this global world and you're traveling and you're working with several different people from different backgrounds, self-awareness is important because we all have different self-beliefs, cultures, and values. So it's important that you're aware of how your reactions will impact those around you to be able to work with you. And in some cases, it's really just it's ignorance, pride, and genuinely actually being unaware of the fact that you lack self-awareness, and that's very normal. However, the most classic scenario where it actually goes wrong is when you believe you are self-aware. And I'm smiling as I say this because there is a study that says that found that 95% of us actually believe that we are self-aware of how we react to situations. However, the true fact is that only 15% are really self-aware of how we deal with situations and react and how this has an impact on others. So that really tells you a lot about us human beings or people, that we have to do a little bit more around the self-awareness. And this is why, in some cases we get it wrong. And this is why on projects go wrong within change management. No one is actually there to be able to pick up on people's behaviors and leaders trying to help them to do their best, but also to recognize the emotions of of their team members to be able to lead them to success. And then also the times where it's the self-awareness arises, or the lack of it. It's where someone lacks self-confidence, when they're insecure. There's certain emotions that are triggered, that they become more reactive to the situation than actually being proactive. Number two, how does it go wrong? Um, it's really, in some cases, due to selfish behavior. Having the attitude of, I am the boss, I am the leader, or maybe I'm the owner of the business, so there's no consequences for their actions, so they can do and say whatever they want because these individuals can't do anything about it. But also this then leads to the abuse of power. Yes, you own the business, but does that mean you have to act the way you act? Do you have to react the way you react? Because that's not going to be fruitful in the long run. People will not want to work with you in the long run. People might not want to apply for jobs in your company, and you'll be stuck. In the other cases, it's where people are just self-centered, and only their feelings and emotions are of importance, And when someone tells them about what they've done wrong, it becomes very personal, and they take it like an attack or receive it like an attack on them. But they're not actually thinking about the fact that someone had the courage or took the opportunity, or a few minutes out of their time to just try and talk to them and raise the adverse impact their behavior is having on the rest of the team, especially if you're leading a project in a tense environment. Self-awareness is critical and essential to help you succeed, because your project team feeds off your energy. So if your energy is always just negative, adverse, it will spread through the team, and as well as those impacted functions around you, and they wouldn't want to try and collaborate with your team or yourself. The engagement of the stakeholders will decrease, and then that's going to even create another roadblock for you to get over again. So what is the impact of such behavior? Lightly touched upon it, but I'm going to speak from a project side. in such an environment or with such a leader who's very much unaware of their reactions, to situations, especially in tense environments, this will hinder the team's performance. An example, on a project that I worked on, we had a classic lead who was very unaware or did not have any self-awareness of his behavior and reactions to situations, whereby if you went to them and told them there was an issue, we've got a roadblock here, we cannot, this has failed, the system has failed, or UAT has failed, and these are the issues we're facing, he would just completely blow up in your face. Why is it happening? It shouldn't happen. So you're going to your boss or to your lead to give them the results and say to them, this is where we are. Honestly, this is where we are, and these are the results. And you are putting forward a suggestion of how we can, overcome this. But the best thing you got was actually being yelled at. This really hindered the systems lead's performance, and also all of us around us, because now we knew that if there was an issue, we would be scared, or we didn't want to approach that lead, that program lead, to tell them what's wrong, because he's going to yell, and no one wants to be yelled at. And he was very loud that you can sometimes hear him from across the room. No one wants to be in such a situation, and such behavior is just appalling and unacceptable. So as a lead, it's important you are self-aware and be able to manage the situation more appropriately. Secondly, you reduce your chances of success by at least 50%, because no one wants to work with someone who's not aware of their actions. The fourth thing is, if your team knows that if they come and tell you there's something wrong, or if the scope is slightly incorrect and we need to amend it to be able to meet the end user requirements, and all you do is shout, why are you changing, that's going to slow us down, they'll just keep quiet and continue to configure the system the way you, the lead, who lacks self-awareness through your reactions, they'll just configure it to your spec, even though they know that when they get to UAT or when they hand it over to the end users are not going to sign it off. And therefore, they'll just make decisions that make you happy rather than those that are best for the program or for the change initiative. And in summary, with all these things, how they could go wrong, the only thing that I can say to you is, you're a leader, you're an adult, so act like one and stop throwing your toys out of the pram. Just get on with the job and just grow up.
Now, if you find this podcast beneficial and interesting to listen to, do me a favor, please press follow and subscribe and share with your friends and families.
Number 3, how do you develop self-awareness? The one thing that I would initially encourage is do the 360-degree feedback. Yes, I will warn you, it will be painful to read. I've gone through it. It will be a shock to you if you've never had one done before. However, it's one of the best tools or best feedback tool that you can ever come across or you will ever get. Because what it does is a survey or a list of questions is sent out to your boss, your peers, and your direct reports, and any other people who cannot work with you, and ask you questions about your personality, yourself, your leadership style, and all these different elements around management styles. They will give you honest feedback anonymously. That feedback is supposed to help you. Read it, digest it. Do not take it personal. That's all I have to say. Take it with a pinch of salt, but learn from it. This will also give you an idea of how the rest of the people in the organization perceive you. How do they see you? And this is, to how we mentioned in the beginning, who are you and how do people perceive you? That's important, because how you see yourself is sometimes very different from how others see you. And this is where you actually get to know how other people see you. Next steps, you need to know your strength. First, you really need to look deep inside. You know your strength, because it's about knowing your strength and your weaknesses. And within your weaknesses, identify the areas that you have to work on and work on them. I'm not saying change, but work on them. What are your triggers? Find out what your triggers are, and they're to help you be able to mitigate the adverse reactions that have an adverse impact on individuals, but also for your own mental well-being and health. It's important that you are able to manage your stress levels and react in a way that's not going to impact you adversely emotionally as well. Third thing, learn from the feedback. I've mentioned it before, and adapt it. Do not let it go to waste. Not everyone has an opportunity to do 360 feedback, but it's worth it. I would encourage you to do it, especially if you're in a senior leadership position. You will learn a lot from it, but it will help you succeed and become a better leader. Because at the end of the day, you're not working through a career to go backwards. You're working to go forwards, and if you go forwards, you need to lead. You need to have better, softer skills to be able to lead successfully. Again, if you put this into practice, you will see the difference in your leadership style. You will lead a better performing team, and this leads to your success, not just the company, but yourself as well. Because at the end of the day, why are you working? Is to be successful. If you're successful, your company will be successful. So get on with it. Same thing as the family. If you handle situations better, you're receiving feedback from your family members. If someone says, you could have handled it better, take a moment and reflect that you could have done better. So next time you do it, it's you do it in a better way, and not to drive or have any kind of fear within the household, because you want the household to be a place that everyone feels safe and sound, but also to be able to express the way they feel and be able to be creative. Continue to have the normal family discussions at home. Let everyone be free and comfortable. Put learnings into practice. Will enable you to be better equipped. I'm using a parent relationship here, because if you're continuously having outbursts with the child will kind of withdraw and feel like they don't feel comfortable talking to you, because they don't know how you're going to react, and they don't want to be in that situation that they were before when you overreacted about something. Number 4, and the last point, is what are the benefits of self-awareness? What do you gain from self-awareness? For the individuals that we mentioned before, who are not aware, or proud, arrogant in some way, or believe they know what they believe, they're the best in the class and therefore don't need to change anything. Try it, because try learning about self-awareness. Try reflecting and understanding yourself. Try learning your emotions, how you manage those emotions, how you manage stress. You can do better regardless of what happened, a long time ago, because there is a study that says that how people deal with emotional intelligence and self-awareness in particular is usually how your emotions were valued when you were younger. So if your emotions were constantly shut down or not valued or not recognized, you also through adulthood you struggle with the same aspect. And here we're trying to say, or what we're saying is, be open to your emotions and your feelings, and then be able to manage them so that it doesn't have an impact on you as well as those around you. So practice or learn about self-awareness, or get the right tools in place to help you learn more about self-awareness. Because one, you will gain growth and better performance, one at home, as well at work, because people will feel comfortable to come and work with you. They would want to have collaborative discussions. You'll also have increased confidence, inner confidence, and people can see it. They'll see that spring in the step, that you are confident in yourself and you're not constantly trying to step over people's toes to try and get to the top, even when you're not really that good. And even when you get there, no one really wants to work with you. You become a better communicator because nothing is really kind of putting you under pressure, or you're not prejudging what people are thinking of you and anticipating what they think you should be doing, and therefore reacting to what you think they're thinking. It will make you a successful and effective leader. And this study has been out there that the most successful and effective leaders apply emotional intelligence, generally holistics, all through the 4 components, alongside change management. So self-awareness is the beginning of this, and it's important that you get up to grips with it and start embedding it within your own doing, in your day-to-day ways of working, your thinking process, and in any way that you need to apply it. People will find you relatable and approachable. Your team will feel comfortable. In the example that I gave you, I got to a point where if I faced an issue on the project, I never went to that team lead because I just didn't want him to scream, and I just didn't have the mental capacity to handle his, inappropriate behavior. So I'd rather deal with the situation myself and don't bother telling him. But is that really what you as a leader should be seen as or should be perceived as? So try being more aware of yourself and knowing you, and react in better ways to drive, behaviors or an environment where people find you relatable and approachable, so that they can, you can at least try and have or give them the opportunity, plus yourself, to know what is really happening on the ground. You also drive better collaboration and better creativity within the team. This environment, every leader strives for such an environment, because you get the best ideas in people who are collaborating and who are creative. And you're paying them so much money through their technical skills. So why not provide that environment that just gets the best out of them to make you success and grow and develop within the sector or industry you're in? And the one thing that I would like to raise here, some of you or some of the leaders, and actually, generally through society, it's always believed that the qualification, if you have the qualifications, some people have got masters, God knows how many masters and degrees that they have. That is not an issue, and that is not a problem. So don't get me wrong here. However, the higher you go to the top, qualifications and technical skills are just the entry point to you getting to that exec level, to the senior exec level. But other than that, you will find that you need people to work with, people to help you do the activities or perform the activities that you need to be able to remain at the top and to make you successful. And therefore, it's important that your emotional intelligence is intact. You are self-aware of your behavior, your reactions, because you have to work and rely on these people to help you get to that top of the triangle, to be able to remain there successfully until when you decide to retire. And also, knowing your emotions and understanding you yourself puts you in a better position to lead, because how can you understand a team member's feelings or a family member's feeling, let's say here a child, and their emotions, if you can't understand your emotions or your feelings? So think about it. And to summarize, why is self-awareness important to us, to you as an individual, as a leader, as an adult, any human being? Why is self-awareness important to you, and why is it essential to you? This is because we're in an environment full of people. We're human beings. You're working with people, and you're around people. So as a leader or as an adult or as a human being, you can bring the best out in you, others, and lead a successful team, or even have a better home environment, because a happy home is a happy place to be by developing self-awareness alongside or with change management, especially if there's a change aspect to the scenario that you might be in. And this is why it's an essential skill set to have and therefore develop. So anyone who's looking to be a successful leader, an effective one, and climb up that ladder, you need to work on your self-awareness. Thank you for listening. For the next episode, we will continue on the emotional intelligence journey, but we will be focusing on the self-management aspect of the topic. Thank you for listening, and see you next week.
If you find this podcast beneficial or interesting, please press follow, like, or subscribe. Lastly, and of course, don't forget to spread the word by sharing. Thank you for listening.